I believe, I would argue, and I think I would be supported by quite a number of people who have been in the hobby for 40 years, that Superman #1 is not rare. We have to be honest with the collecting community. I mean, like painfully honest. We're whistling in the dark.
Let's welcome back legendary collector Gary Carter. Gary, why do you think our hobby still struggles so much with the concept of rarity?
We're one of the few hobbies, unlike stamps and coins, philately and numismatists, and syngraphists, I believe is what they call people who collect paper money. They have data and statistics on production runs. They they're not flying by the seat of their pants. They know exactly how many 1804 silver dollars are still out there. And the same way with the inverted Jenny, they know exactly how many are in existence and, the sheet, the plate block, all that kind of stuff. And a lot of people forget that the grading system, and therefore a lot of other things, was based on coin grading. In other words, if you think about the word mint, which is short for minted, it's really not the correct term for a perfect comic book. It should be print, actually, not mint. That horse has left the barn a long time ago. The thing which always puzzles me about Rarity is how much of it is rumor mill, how much of it is actually acculturated rumor mill. People often in the comic book world go with their hopes and dreams and ignore data if it's available. So when I worked for Bob Overstreet, we stayed up many a late night discussing this topic on whether we had the legitimate right to put in the words scarce and rare next to a comic book. Bob, he really agonized over this because he's an honest guy and he wasn't trying to mislead anybody. He was trying to help people, not be taken advantage of. If you don't put in the word scarce or rare on the other side of the coin, if it's common knowledge, at least in the hobby, then is that not leveling the playing field too, right? So you're caught between a rock and a hard place because we have no data. And so when CGC started accumulating their data, saying, there's 10 higher and 4 lower and, one the same, that sort of thing, they are beginning to broach that problem of a lack of data. And to suggest that the CGC census, even for Action 1, is the finite universe, or even close to the finite universe, it's reasonable, it's logical, and the question is it true? Latter half of the 20th century and this first quarter of the 21st century, we're still the Cinderella of hobbies when it comes to data. Bob tried to define rare and scarce. Do you remember that? 50 or less known copies, 20 or less known copies. But really, who knows that? It's an estimate, it's a guess to tell somebody a book is rare. Now, let's talk about the other thing. Sometimes if you are an experienced collector, your logic is going to put together a number of factors and say, it's reasonable to believe this book is really rare. When did it come out? Who would have saved it? What is it made out of? Is it before or after the paper drives? Is it before or after the comic book burnings in the South in the early 50s during the McCarthy era? Was it a issue that was low minimum print run because of the Postal Matter Act, Second Class Matter Act, and therefore wasn't even distributed? Less were printed than the number of newsstands in the United States. Look at what we don't know, but we certainly know the factors. Let's take a book we all have pondered because it used to go from nobody wanted it to everybody wanted, and that's Suspense 3. Is Suspense 3 rare? I would pose that to you. And if it is rare, why do you think so? I mean, I put it on the cover of a CBM and 5 more copies popped out of the woodwork the next month.
I think rarity can be influenced. You're right. Someone talks about it, one copy sells, and you flush out maybe a couple if that sale was very strong. And I think also, Gary, you have a difference in you have rarity and then you have rarity to the marketplace. Sometimes a book may be rare, but there may be 5 copies available right now that you could buy. It just so happens at this time in
Right.
the
The luck of the market.
yeah, but it is rare. But to the appearance of it being rare may not be as much if there's 5 different copies that you can buy right now. So someone from the outside or not in collectibles may not understand. Oh, they said it was rare. I see 5 on eBay right now. Well, there's a little bit more to that. It is rare, but it just so happens that in the last 6 weeks, these copies got posted because I copied a high amount, 2 months ago. So people are trying to take advantage of that last sale.
Yeah.
Plus, people put in their listings, they'll parentheses scarce or parentheses rare, or my favorite, hard to find. What you just said, actually, a minute ago, Ben, was you described a fad. The
Well,
popularity of books have arcs.
the other thing that kills me is, and I don't say this as a knock, but the lack of experience in some of the newer collectors, and they'll post Batman 3. None of the first Batmans are rare. I mean, sure, I mean, you're not going to just grab one every day, but that's not rare to me. I would say Batman 3 is between uncommon and common as far as Golden Age standards. And that's a whole nother ball of wax. You're going to put Golden Age standards against, Bronze Age standards, two different standards of what rarity would be.
And your point is further complicated by condition.
Yeah,
So Superman 1 in fair and good, I've heard people describe it as common as dirt. But Superman 1 and VF or better, we
ab-
all know those don't grow on trees, right?
absolutely.
When you add that extra complex layer of condition, a Hulk 181, even though it's not everybody's cup of tea, in the ultra high grades at 9.8 or maybe even 10.0, any comic book from the 50s, 60s, 70s, even early 80s might actually be scarce because of handling defects. Well, let's try a couple more fun ones. Let's take more fun 52. You say that word, that phrase out loud to every seasoned collector, and immediately you hear, oh, that's so rare. Oh, that's rare, 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 rare. So let's go down the list. Donenfeld hated the more fun title. It was the poor little brother of the original Big Four. It was left over from Wheeler Nicholson's era. Kids had the choice of adventure, action, detective, or fun. And the question is, what would a 10-year-old kid buy with his precious dime at the newsstand? Action, detective, adventure, or fun, no matter what was in it as a title? Or which one would grandma bring home to him knowing what the kid wants? You see what I'm getting at? I've talked to everybody I know for 40 years in collecting since I even discovered the title More Fun. And everybody I know as a culture agrees that that's a rough title. That's tough. That's difficult to find. And in grade, damn near impossible. That's what makes the Mile High issues, which were the only high grade issues I've ever seen, so remarkable. See, we used reasonable logic, using everything we know about the world of publishing and comic books and history, and we come to this conclusion that more fun is rare. Is it more rare than All-American 16? I would rank 52 rarer than 16, but 16 is pretty damn obscure too. The All-American title wasn't selling so great. Otherwise, they wouldn't have changed the content or the format.
If you were paying close attention, you may have noticed that Gary and Ben mentioned several different types of rarity: absolute, relative, conditional, attributional, and even market availability rarity. I created the most comprehensive video on these topics, and you can check it out here. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and I hope to see you around real soon.